Hello and welcome to KritzKast, the Team Fortress 2 podcast with me, Aggro, and two wonderful, gentle persons by the name of Sour Danny and Farlander. Did I get that right? Is that Farlander?
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
Okay,
You got it.
I was hoping it would be fairly easy to say Farlander. Danny, can I call you Danny? Is that okay? Do I have to call you Sour?
Nah.
Danny, excellent.
It's always funny when people will say like, "Oh, hey Sour, hey Sour." I'm like, "Who the hell are you talking to?"
Who the hell are you talking to? The first LAN event I went to that was not like just me and my mates turning up. And people were like, "Go Aggro, do this." Like that warm, fuzzy feeling of like your friends who you never really see in real life, but then you're seeing them and they're still choosing to interact.
They call you by your handle, yeah.
By your handle, yeah. Like because that's what they know.
Speaking of which, that's actually how like me and Shork and Oris like interact in real life. We still call each other by our handles. It's really quite neat.
For sure. And I think that's when TF Connect is again. We haven't even started. We're off on a tangent. But TF Connect, like the live events we've done, I think those were all like amazing. But again, I would see people and they would tell me their names, and I'd be like, I'm not going to remember that. Can I just call you whatever your handle is, because that's who you are to me. And that works. So we've got some cool people in chat as well. For those who are listening to this after the event, we recorded this on our Discord server. You also may not be aware that Sour Danny is one of the administrative team for Discord. They've been very strongly associated with KritzKast for a long time, given up huge swathes of their time to try and make KritzKast the cool environment that I think that it is. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you, Danny, for all the time and effort you put into that.
Oh wow. Yeah, you're welcome. Cool. I really like this place, and every once in a while I'll get a ping, and I'll just immediately ban somebody or add them to the to the stream team, or
For sure. Yeah, I think you're in at this stage. You're in pretty much all of the teams, so I think we can kind of shortcut that and just say like ping Danny for assistance. So I think with that to one side, I mean you are a personality in and of yourself within the groups that you've worked with. Would you mind kind of like outlining the stuff that you've been involved in, just to people give an idea to people of what you do?
Oh man, that I didn't prep for. So, God, I think on my Blue Sky, I like have what is it? Hold on. It's like source mod activist or something. It's source engine activist is what I like to call myself, because
source engine activist, great. Okay.
Because like I've been in the like source community for like since I was like 11 or 12. I've been playing like Gmod and TF2 for so long, and I think modding has always been like a big interest to me. So like back when I was a little kid, I was making like a crappy intro video mod for TF2, but somebody had to correct it because I did the version for Mac OS and nobody played on Mac OS, so somebody had to actually make the proper mod for Windows. So it's I've been a part of KritzKast for some time. I was originally just trying to do like whatever assets I could do. I've helped with like t-shirts and whatnot, and then eventually doing like the Discord bot for here. And I think everything I do is kind of related to TF2 one way or another. Like this place here, or with Pre-Fortress 2. Yeah,
Danny, I mean, it's really weird for me, like discovering that you did code. I think you came to us as being like an artist or someone who's just interested in stuff TF2 related.
Do you not know the like story?
Coder. I'm looking at my wrist as if other people can see me looking at my wrist, and also as if I had a watch. So yeah, by all means, you've got all the time in the world. Let me.
It's a quick one. It's a quick one. It's just you remember that guy Loaf? He basically was like, I want to make a Discord bot for moderating the competitions here, and I was like, oh, can I try? I never programmed before 2020, and this guy was just like, I'm gonna make a bot, and then I jumped on it, and that's how I became a programmer. And I still use things I picked up from then, and I still use things I picked up from being a modder as like a little kid. So all of it like adds up, and these days I'm really focused on my personal life. I've got a good balance going. I'm I'm not in lockdown anymore where I can just hammer away at something all day long. But for the most part, I stick to like source mods and in particular PF2, and I try to like be an activist, like be like outspoken about all the work people do and like making sure that people can connect with one another within the community. So
yeah,
that's what I do.
I mean, I'm glad that you've reached further beyond simply being like one of the people in KritzKast. But I guess that's always only ever been like one of the many prongs that you have in the proverbial fire. Fairlander, I think I know very little of you, so and we've been chatting amongst ourselves, talking KritzKast stuff. Can I ask where it is you come from and what it is you're doing, particularly in terms of the world of like Pre-Fortress, but TF2, your experiences that way?
What is it? It was years and years and years ago someone introduced me to TF2. I say years and years and years because it feels that way, but it's probably not been that long.
February.
It's been at least like what, 2019, 2020, maybe earlier than that.
Oh yeah, okay.
But I originally got into it just by making mods for regular TF2, and then through browsing the internet, stumbled into Team Fortress 2 Classic, which I was very interested in. I started making mods around that. At the time, my main thing was, art. I still do art. That's my main thing. I do art, animation. Yeah. That's my bread and butter for the most part. But at the time, I did not do much animation. Most of my stuff was art. But I spent most of my time making mods. And then people were like, hey, this shit's really good. You should apply to be a dev for TF2C. And I was like, okay, I guess, if you think so. And I did. And they were like, hey, this is actually really good. You should join us. And I was like, okay, sure. So I've just sort of been riding the wave, I guess, if that's the right terminology. So I started making mods. People said it's good stuff, and I've been moving up since. Yeah. As of now, I am the art lead. I basically dictate, like, hey, this thing's good to go, this thing's not good to go visually. Give direction, guidelines, that kind of thing.
Yeah, keeping it all together, keeping the vision centralized.
Cohesive.
I will repeat what I do, which is just like making sure the game gets out the door, quality assurance, getting automation set up. Like, for instance, we have a tool where if somebody makes code changes, they can just upload the binary that's compiled up to their repo, and the server that we have, our little dev server for playtesting, will just automatically restart so people can test their immediate changes and whatnot. I will say, if you're doing a source mod project, and I know the other source mod projects do this too now, but it helps to have other leads. It helps to not carry everything on your shoulder. Because I was the project lead for a year or something, and I was like, this sucks. I'm going to give some responsibility to other people. So
I mean, that's kind of what we discovered with. I mean, this is going sort of totally into the weeds a little bit, but certainly with every project that I've been involved in, where there's more than maybe 4 people involved, having individual like heads of or leads for particular departments, like having individual departments is great, and having individual like leads being responsible for those departments also is great, and having those be different people. Like, theoretically, it's possible for everyone or one person to wear all the hats. I mean, this is Team Fortress 2 after all. But help me chuckle. Yeah. But the reality is that the more things you try and do at the same time, the less the quality of each individual piece of work will be, and more to the point, like the more stressed you'll be. Like little things that should not really be a burden to anyone, just keep piling up. So yeah, having like a diverse group of individuals who are able to work together and to communicate properly just makes a huge difference. But yeah,
and it also means
particular roles.
It also means that I don't get blamed for things. Somebody else will get blamed.
If we can't find someone to blame, we ping Danny and go, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
What did you do? What have you done this time, Danny? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I like the whole blame culture thing. I know that you're joking. I know that's not like a real thing, but like a lot of the projects I've been involved in personally, like the expectation of something's gone wrong, who do we blame? Like that's just unworkable long term.
Right. No good. PF2's culture used to be so nasty before Danny showed up.
Before Danny, yeah.
No, hold on.
Pre-Danny.
This is in my notes. This is my notes. Hold on.
Yeah, please do.
There's a specific phrase here. Let me zoom into that. Oh, here it is. It says, "My toxic positivity is spreading."
Yeah.
Speaking of, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of toxic positivity, I just want to let people know that if they want to try out Gamer Subs, it's my my personal toxic positivity of life. Then use the discount code KritzKast, and for this particular period, certainly up until the 28th, which is in a couple of days' time, as in recording this, it's a 21% discount if you use the code KritzKast. After that, it's 10%, but still worthy. I'm necking various tubes of Gamer Subs as we speak. So if you hear a gulp, that's what it is.
Gulp?
Anyway.
That or I'm nervous.
Yeah. Well, I'm nervous, yeah. I can hear movement. I don't know where it's coming from. They're in the house, so with me. Yeah. Is Pre-Fortress like the cool place to hang out at the moment in terms of like developing a thing?
It can be a little like a friend group. It can have its like ups and downs in terms of like that aspect of it. Like I think we're kind of at the point now where we've mostly I would say close to totally ironed out any kind of like social kinks, I guess. Like you know, every development group is going to have disagreements, but like in terms of like just being able to hang out and make something, I think it's in a really good spot right now. I think that people's voices are heard, and I think being a part of the like I said, like splitting up the head or the lead positions allows for that, because it means that it's not just one person like talking about an aspect of development. Multiple people can say, "Oh, I'm going to bring this," or "I want to do that." We have fun playing the game, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
In terms of actually like making the mod, I'd agree it's pretty lax.
Mm-hmm.
Like for the most part, we've tried to adapt more from a here's what we're gonna do, nobody argue environment into like a here's our idea. Does anyone have any input?
Yeah,
because that tends to be a lot more healthy.
Yeah,
Believe it or not.
I mean, I suppose one of the advantages to that, as things stand, and we'll get into this a little bit later on, is that you're doing a thing for the joy of doing a thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
There are no deadlines. Well, obviously there are deadlines, but there's no. You're not beholden to anyone. You're not beholden to shareholders. You're not beholden to.
thank goodness.
To users even. Like you do a thing, you get to muck around with it, and then when you're done, you're like, that was fun. What are we looking at next, kind of thing.
Yeah, we had like we always try to set deadlines just because it's like, okay, let's get this done in like a timely manner, but we're not afraid of postponing things because like me personally, I've had to like I struggled with my like relationship with developing PF2. Like on God, I was like in the worst job I've ever been, scooping ice cream for just like tourists, and it was so like awful, and I would just be like mindlessly scooping ice cream, and then I'd scutter off into the kitchen to like, I don't know, remote into the server to make sure it was up to date. Like it was unhealthy because I would be like, I want to do PF2 and nothing else, because during lockdown it was like my project. It was my project. I was
PF2 ice cream truck.
Yeah, I was sitting there and I was working at it at home, and then when I had to go out and be human again, I like took that with me, and I'm at the point again where there's balance. When I go to work, I would do work, but sometimes at work, I might be working on PF2 a little bit here and there, but it's not like where it was, where it's like I'm only doing PF2 and it's sacrificing moments of my life.
I exist for this one thing, and all other things are irrelevant.
Oh, Dead Things in the chat. Hello.
Chat, can we blow this guy up?
Dead thing?
Yeah, he's dead to me.
Okay, fair enough. dead for everyone. So, yeah. So I mean, I think we've said the name a few times. It's like it's the name of the particular episode that we're doing. By the way, welcome back to KritzKast. Yeah, it's Pre-Fortress. So I think we should probably start there. Like, what is Pre-Fortress? What? The question I've written was, what was? Can you describe the intent behind Pre-Fortress, or what it was originally, or what it was initially? And that's kind of like what I'm going for there.
Yeah, real quick. I wanted to say real quick. I mentioned something about balance earlier. We did the TF Connect chat, and we were talking, and then Farlander was like, "You didn't talk about the nades." So I brought Farlander in today to make sure that we discuss, PF2 things outside of a like a general sense.
Yeah.
I will say and feel free to interject, Farlander. The original intent for PF2 was beta accuracy. Let's make the game as accurate as possible to the beta.
Okay, like,
go ahead.
I mean, so I think it needs to be said, because like it like there are multiple mods of different versions of Team Fortress 2, but what Pre-Fortress seems to be, from my perspective, an outsider looking in, is a version of Team Fortress 2 that was only available during like the beta version of Team Fortress 2, or halfway between Team Fortress, TFC, Team Fortress Classic, and Team Fortress 2.
I would say that that's kind of accurate. The whole intention is, taking a look at what design they were kind of giving it in 2005, 2006. Our models, our aesthetics are a little bit more saturated than TF2. It's hard to believe, and we kind of have different styles we're going for with the characters. They're based off more concept art. We're using guns based off of concept art. We're using aspects of development that were left behind. Like you said, Team Fortress Classic. In Team Fortress Classic, you had grenades. And well, I hear you say, well, there ain't no grenades in TF2, and part of that was because when they were trying it out, it was Spamton, right? Like it was Spamtown. It was Spamtown, and so what we aim to do is say,
okay, let's look at Spamtown.
Spamtown. So we're taking a look at these aspects of development that were left behind, for better or for worse, and we're saying, okay, let's give it our try. So we say, oh, grenades. Okay, well, let's try to make that work. Let's try to make that work. And so we make it more of like a utility. You don't have to spam your way down a corridor. If something you notice in PF2 is we don't have crits too, and it's because we personally just don't think it fits within our game environment. Server hosts can enable it whatever they want, and I think that's awful. But anyway, you can we have grenades. And each class has their own special grenade, except for the sniper, and every class has frag grenades, and really timing them, because you can hold it down like beep beep beep, and you can throw it.
Cook them like TFC.
Yeah, and part of we're really trying to do away with any kind of spammability. Like, obviously you can chuck a grenade down a hallway, but you can also chuck a pill down a hallway, like a demo man pill. So it's like yeah, and it's because also because random crits aren't beta accurate. Dead Thing is correcting me. Dead Thing is our programming lead, which is why I was jesting about him earlier. But it's really a mod that takes some of these aspects that were left behind, like armor and grenades, and says, okay, let's give it another go. Let's try this again. Let's make it to a point that isn't confusing or isn't frustrating, and let's make it fun. Like we oftentimes have like random bits of discussion where like, oh, I was playing Payload today in TF2, and I pressed my grenade bind and was disappointed because it comes to a point where like playing PF2, when you play it for a long time, you just get used to that scenario. Like, oh, this would be a great time to chuck a grenade somewhere, or instead of like just being like, oh, I'm gonna spam it up a storm. Like when you're outside of TF2 playing a different game or a different TF2 or different TF2 mod, you find yourself hitting the grenade bind button. And I think that's really important, is taking a critical look at these things, not like a foggy glasses look, like in the earlier development of PF2, like, oh, these things, we got to bring them back because beta is so awesome, it's so epic, it's so perfect. And then when they did that, go ahead.
Can can I interject at this point and just
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
like, I mean, you mentioned it a few times, beta accurate. What are you using as a reference or as notes to describe what is or what isn't beta
Hold on.
accurate?
I gotta take this one, Danny.
Okay, I was gonna say.
So for the most part, what would be described as quote unquote beta accuracy is leftovers from leaks, trailer footage, like, trailers 1 and 2 on YouTube, look them up. Like, you get things from those, from real, actual Team Fortress 2 early development. And people will look at them and they'll point at them and go, that's exactly how the game was, as it was in the trailer, right?
Yep.
And that just isn't the case. You get things like the trailers, they were made in, like, early source filmmaker. That's not the game.
Yeah.
But beta accuracy fans will look at that and say, that's exactly what the game looks like. Everything in there is like a Bible. And so early Pre-Fortress 2 was basically taking all of those things, like, like I said, leaked assets, trailers, whatever, and trying to treat it like a Bible and recreate it as best as possible, even though that didn't result in a fun, playable, or enjoyable game.
Yeah.
And another I was gonna say another aspect is there is no beta. There is no playable beta too.
That's the thing. That's the
it
thing
doesn't-
also, yeah.
It
Because it's
doesn't
like...
help. Go ahead.
Yeah. Because that's the thing also. You're trying to recreate a Bible of something that doesn't exist. There is no template for this. There was no publicly accessible beta. No one knows the stats. No one knows how it was. So you're trying to design a game entirely based on looks that are completely subjective to what it actually may have looked like.
Can I jump in?
Yeah. Sure.
Jump in an analogy. I love that word, but I hate saying it. It to my mind, it's a little bit like the prequels for things like Star Trek, where you've built up this whole fiction of this world that exists, but only exists in the future, the far-flung future. It's not real. It's not based on anything. But now you've got to try and recreate what the technology was like 100 years before that, or 50 years before the things existed, that everything else was built on top of. So that's my analogy. It's a prequel. You're creating a prequel of a well-established game that actually has no history.
So, like, with your example, right? Like, you say something that happens, 10 million years ago, right? We have archaeological record of it. We can see fossils. There's rock samples. We know it was there. We know it happened. But these little snippets are all we have. This is what we can look at physically. So by that, we can speculate, this is what this looked like. But that doesn't make it at all accurate or relevant even to what it actually may have been.
Oh, so it's Jurassic Park deciding that all of the dinosaurs look like lizards instead of looking like chickens, which is what they're supposed to look like. But there we go.
Yeah, so you get that same phenomenon going on here, where, say, for example, Dead Thing gave us a good example in chat a minute ago. Say there's a big pile of tires in the corner of a map somewhere, right? We're going to argue in old PF2. Say we go back to 2021 when I joined the team. We're going to be arguing over whether that pile of tires had grooves on its texture or not. That's what we're going to be doing. That's what's important to us at the time.
Up whether or not they're white-walled tires or...
Yeah, exactly. It's like, because people are saying that pile of tires was in the trailer at 0 minutes 43 seconds, and it did not look like it had grooves on it. Therefore, we should not have grooves on our texture. Blah 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 blah. And that was all of PF2's development.
So that was what it started off as. That was
how
the
it started.
idea of that, and it essentially making use of dubiously acquired code to recreate from scratch-ish Team Fortress 2 in a version of which that didn't exist or hasn't existed outside of the vaults of Valve. But redesigning it such that it's playable.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hold on.
At the time, the goal wasn't to make it playable. It was just to have it. People wanted a perfect reconstruction of the beta as it was. And if that meant implementing unfinished mechanics, making things uncomfortable on purpose, they were going to do it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was going to say
if it meant
kind of dedication to the cause.
If it meant quote unquote accuracy, we were going to do it.
Okay.
I was going to add.
A lot of things like, from in-dev screenshots and whatever that were floated around at the time, supposed in-dev screenshots. Like, for instance, there's an image of, I believe, a medic or a sniper on CTF Badlands where they're holding an SMG, just a sniper SMG with one hand.
Yeah.
And that was taken as Bible. That means we have to use the sniper SMG and it only can be one-handed.
Yeah.
So that's miserable. That presentation sucks, but it's beta, so we have to do it.
I want to add real quick. The only time in which a build of TF2 was presented was when Postal 3 was leaked, and it had a bunch of like really inspirational stuff for us. We were able to look at what aspects of development was like. The problem was that it was pretty late in terms of when PF2 started, and also the fact that the build that was included of Team Fortress 2 was just not playable. It was just not playable, and it wasn't until years later did somebody reverse engineer the binaries to get it to run again. So, and even so, that build of the game was so late into TF2's development too. I think it would have even been out of scope for our mod. And so it's really interesting when you have this like internal struggle of, oh, let's meet this artificial kind of image of scraps and bits and pieces of what we have from images, trailers, people talking. Oh, this little thing got leaked in there. Like our grenades are based off of stuff that was accidentally left in like the very first version of TF2. Like that's actual like stuff we find and we use and whatnot. And a lot of the time it's just this case where it's like you get something and it may not work for the best and whatnot. Real quick, Dead Thing said something important. Shoot, what is it?
Do we just want to grab that thing and bring them into this chat?
We are still inspired by. Whoa, my mouse. Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
We're inspired by beta elements. So, like, one thing that we really tread carefully on is. Hold on. First of all, I will say no, Dead Thing cannot come in because he had his moment. He connect. But
maybe
like we're inspired by beta TF2 things, right? Because obviously we look at the 2006 2005 designs of things and we're like, oh, hey, that's really cool, like let's build off of that. Let's we like the aesthetics of it, right? We're not going to deny the fact that we like how that looked, right? So rather than like forcing ourselves to have this mishmash of unbalanced poop, we say, okay, let's get the aesthetics of that. Let's get that there. Let's use that guy there. Let's make it look like that. And then we toss it out. We make it look really nice. It's part of what Firelander does, is helping us make things look really nice. It doesn't have to be the low res image that like was found in a leak or that some guy named Jerry made off of Game Banana 6 years ago. We can take that and work with it and take it forward. And we're always improving our assets. Like even our player models, we keep perpetually adding to them and adding to them and adding to them. And it's worth noting that we are an in-dev game. Like we're still at 0.8 or not 0.8, what 0.73, and we're working towards 0.74, and we have 0.8 coming up. And so it's worth noting that all this stuff that we take inspiration from and we work on continues forward. We keep working on it. We say, yeah, we like those aesthetics, but let's work on making it better.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're regarding the timelines as peculiar as Pre-Fortress is in that it's like a modern retro game. But like the timeline, I'd like to like put a space between what was the development cycle for Pre-Fortress, and what it currently is, and then what it will be in the future. So the two of you have been working on it. Would you regard yourselves as being like part of the modern team? Were you part of the original team? Like how does that involvement work out?
I think like one of the very last people from the old team just recently left too. Okay. Dead Thing in the chat is like, I'm an old head, but he wasn't a dev until 21 or something like that. I think you'll find most people were play testers that are old heads. Yes, I hear you, Dead Thing. That were like play testers or were involved in some kind of way. There's one. Sure. I don't remember which name to use. What I'm gonna say, Chris. Just which username I should say, has been around for a long time, and that's we keep them around because Chris knows a lot about beta stuff, knows a lot about old development, new development. It's really helpful. Yeah, and
I thought you were going to keep them around because they're a mascot. They know where the tea bags are, that kind of thing.
Basically, but it's You'll find that our modern team is the modern team. Like the holdovers are people that were there not as a driving force in the beginning, but as like supporting people. And now in modern development, they are like driving people. They're no longer just kind of like, oh, we're kind of hanging out. And they are a part of the team, and like we are. I joined. What's funny is I've been around longer than most of the people from the original team now, like proper team devs. It's weird to say that I joined, a few years after it started, and I'm still here, whereas a lot of them aren't. And a part of that is because we took a hard look at ourselves and we're like, okay, are we just going to keep fighting over tires, or are we going to make something? Are we going to make something that's fun? There's been so much argument over that, and nowadays we like to schedule things out, or not schedule things out. We like to plan things out. We use like Trello. We have like basically a Trello board where we say, for 0.74 we have to do this, for 0.8 we have to do that. It's an important part of our development is saying, okay, where do we draw the line? Like we do a lot of what's called like asset. The word Justin uses where we don't, no more assets or no more code. It's like we're only doing this, and we're only gonna only gonna do light bug fixes from here on out, kind of thing.
Temptation to start talking about there's aspects in my life aspects of this that I don't understand, which is like the development side. But I'm curious, and I hear words over and over again. The project development side is something I've recently gotten into. Like the idea of like Moscow, being able to prioritize things that are really, really useful and definitely need to be there versus those that are like could be kind of useful versus those that just can't possibly exist within the framework that you've got available for you, or timeline that you've got available for you. I almost want to like beat away from that path to a certain degree, though, because the temptation is to just get really, really caught in the weeds on it. But I will ask the question. You've mentioned Trello as being like a utility that you're beholden to. Is what else? Are you on Discord, or how are you communicating?
I will say we don't use Trello per chance or per instance. It's just like easy for people to understand. We use GitHub has projects. It's the same thing, except it's directly linked to issues. So like if somebody's working on the source code and somebody's like, oh, I need to implement the bouncy ball mechanic, and it has to use that, they can make a new issue directly linked to the source code repo. So when they go to the source code repo, say, oh, what do we got to work on in the source code repo? Oh, it's the bouncy ball mechanic. And then we can also take that and put it up in a presentation like in Trello. And so when they see that on the Trello or on the projects board, they click on it, they see, oh, it's related to the PF2 source code repo, and then we can go from there. So it keeps everything in one place instead of going to 600 websites.
For sure.
We communicate on Discord because I'm not paying for Slack. Who's doing that? And so we use Discord.
2025. No one.
We use Discord for a lot of things. When it comes to playtesting, there's oh my god. When I first started in TF2C, I like beta tested for like a month or something, and we used SVN. I think I had to use Turtle SVN, and I didn't really understand it very well. Which is just like it's a versioning software adjacent to Git, and we use Git for having playtesters download our game, and we're moving away from that soon. And it's just been kind of a struggle, just because we have to have somebody know and understand what that GitHub desktop is not just an updater. You have to remember to close out of the game, and part of that is making sure people know how to use the software.
I'm sensing various stages of hostility and or like experiences that you're like you need. I can imagine you rocking back and forth
I've had to make many demonstrations on how to use GitHub Desktop. We've had developers who outright refused to use Git, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Why are we? Because like a problem would be like people would just send models and send crap and send textures over Discord. Discord's a chatting interface, guys. It's meant for quick little snippets here and there. It's not meant for, hey, here's the latest code, or here's the latest model. And it's like, this is terrible. This is awful. So we really got to have developers using Git. Like Git isn't awesome for posting art, and Justin will tell me that all the time. It's not awesome for putting like art sources, but it's what we have, and it's what we're going to continue using. Like if somebody says like, and this is another important reason why we use issues, right? Or the issues, they're just the tasks, right? If somebody says, "Oh, we should really add a bouncy ball mechanic," and then it just gets like left in the dust by people talking about other crap. Oh, I'll pin it. I'll just pin it, and then it gets left in the dust and other crap, and eventually you forget. Oh, I pinned the bouncy ball mechanic 6 months ago, and so having these issues gives them dedicated places to live and exist, rather than just like, oh, let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about it. It's very important that you separate these kind of aspects. Like it's okay to be like, hey, here's how my model's turning out, and you send a screenshot and somebody gives input. Another thing is that we don't allow beta testers into developer channels because it's supposed to be focused on just developers' input. You know, we want your input when you're play testing, not through the entirety, because people, somebody might nitpick their way through a whole conversation, and it just adds a bit of privacy. Like we even limit who can even view our source code. So it's just keeping people focused on what they need to work on. I love being a GitHub org manager so much. I've set up like quite a few of them over the years, and I love setting together teams. Like you can have teams where these people can only access this repo, that. We use GitHub quite heavily, and we use Discord even more. It's just anything to do with development per se is on GitHub, because GitHub has a lot of awesome tools, and anything to do with chatter or hey, let's start an event, that's gonna be on Discord, because that's where our play testers are. That's where we're gonna talk. Right. And in the other tools, hold on, I'm almost done. The other tools,
done. Yeah, go on.
The other tools is simply me hosting a TF2 server on a server that I rent. So we try to keep it pretty together. Like it's either Discord or GitHub. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that within TF2 Maps, for example, they've got a utility that allows you to pinpoint a problem, like a playtester can pinpoint a problem that they found on a server. They can where they are stood and where they're facing goes into that log.
We don't do that.
Is that something? Okay.
That's really nice. We used to just have it where people could just post their bug reports in a channel, and it got caught up. But now they have to say where it is, like what map, they have to describe it, they have to provide screenshots, then they make an issue, they make a task for it. So they go to the PF2 beta repo, which is where they download their game, and they make a new issue, and they said, I got stuck in a door stuck here at this map at this location. And then we take that and we put it in the project.
I think we're kind of gradually inching our way towards like the actual the reason why we're having this conversation in the first place, and I think this is maybe one of the things that SDK and people working on a singular platform might be able to give into this is the ability to share like project tools and share capabilities. But before we actually achieve all the way there, sort of the last question on the pre Fortress is really sort of what the as of February 2025, I'm going to make the assumption that development into pre-Fortress has, in its current code base, has either stopped or is going to be like put to bed before something else kicks off. Is that, am I correct in that assumption, or have I completely misunderstood?
Meaning what? Because in terms of development right now, I can just let you know. So we are at the end of our 0.7.4 update. We, like I said earlier, we like to postpone things because we're just people who make games. We took
nobody's getting paid here, so yeah.
We took the Christmas update and we mashed it together with like a quality of life update, and we've done that before, much to everybody's dismay. We were working on that, and then we got busy, with the holidays and all that. I literally thought we were going to release on Christmas, but then people were like, "Dude, I'm in New York. I'm not at home." So it's just important to work on that. Like, we're done with the code for 0.7.4, and now we're just working on like finishing up assets for our holiday update. And sometimes life is the bigger stopper than like any kind of movement. Like, it's crazy how much motivation this SDK brought, dude. It is insane. Like, everybody's crawling out of the woodworks like bugs to work on their TF2 source mod. It's incredible.
Let's dig into the SDK stuff then. I mean, again, timeline. My focus is always like, what's the history behind this? 2021, I think it was. There's a bunch of like people, developers of mods, who went to Valve and said, "Look, what can we do? We'd like to bring this game to fruition. We'd like it to be appear on Steam." And Valve said, "No, hang tight. We'll come back to you later, and something will happen. Some glorious thing will happen."
Well, that's Valve time for you.
Yeah.
They were like, so we've been using the same code base, all the big three mods. That's TF2 Classic, Open Fortress, and Pre-Fortress 2. We've been using the same code base for a long time, and it's based off of like a 2015 leak of TF2, and it's just that, maybe somebody along the way got sneaky, put more in from newer leaks, but for the most part, it's based off of TF base, which is a port of this old 2015 or so source code leak. And we've been chipping away at that, and people are making, oh, here's the SDK Community Edition, here's an improved version of that. Oh, we got map base going. Oh, we got that. And it'd just be like people taking legit. Well, I say legit as in like not gray market code, and then meshing it with the gray market code. And so for a long time, we were like, I think everybody kind of felt like this sucks. This sucks, just like having to work with this outdated code. And some people, like, as soon as I got on board, I was like, it kind of sucks to always use all this leaked code and stuff, just because it's like people won't implement it properly, or it becomes a mess. And in like 2021, the TF2 Classic and the Open Fortress leads got together, and they reached out to Valve, and Valve was like, yeah, that sounds like an all right idea. Let's like pause everything, like stop what you're doing, and let's do this the right way. Let's do this the right way. Oh boy. So we sat there and we waited.
Scary fucking time.
Yeah, we sat there and we waited. This was pre Danny on the team. People sat there and they waited and waited and waited and waited. Valve time, as you know, does not wait for anybody. And what's funny is this is around the time that I got into Pre-Fortress 2. I had previously played it in an old update and then like moved on. Yeah, hold on. So I'm getting to that dead thing. So specifically TF2 Classic and Open Fortress reached out. So that's really important key factor. And so, at the time, I think I was hanging out with my buddy Justin. We were like, oh, maybe we can play a source mod today. Sorry. Maybe we can play a source mod today. Let's do that. And, we were looking. TF2 Classic was down. Open Fortress was down. But then I don't think either Pre-Fortress 2 never went down, or they went down very briefly. And Pre-Fortress 2 is the only mod that was still had downloads available. And I went and I played it, and I was like, oh, it's really funny the way I joined.
Was that a reaction of Pre-Fortress not necessarily being named in this discussion with Valve?
I believe so. They were not included, and there's a couple reasons why they weren't included. One being they weren't as developed as the other two mods, and so they just it was scary for everybody, because TF2 Classic and Open Fortress had to close, and Pre-Fortress was like, oh god, do I have to close? And other small mods were like, oh, do I have to close as well? And I think PF2 either didn't or did it very briefly. And I joined. It's funny, I joined PF2 development simply because PF2 had a prefortress.ml domain, and at the time I was really getting into web domains. I had bought yoinkysploinky.xyz, and I thought that was the funniest thing ever. And I was like, oh, I can get one for this, for that. Chedsy likes to say that I'm a domain squatter because I like buying domains so much. And I was like, you know what? I wonder if prefortress.com is available. So I looked it up, and it was like $10 a year. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll buy it. And so I bought it, and I was like, here you go, guys. I don't want anything for it. Just use it. Please stop using a .ml.
and everyone collectively went, okay, you're our leader now.
Well, there was a little bit more than that. There was a little bit more than that, but I was people thanked me, and I was invited to the dev Discord as a playtester, and over time I started contributing things and asking for contributions. And eventually I got to the lead just from being purely motivated. In a lot of ways, being purely motivated in a lot of ways. And it eventually led to... Go ahead.
If the same timeline existed in my world, then I'd be the leader of Team Fortress 2, because I own TeamFortress2.com. So yeah.
Yeah, no, literally.
It's legitimately, yeah. 100%.
Aggro owns the web domain for TeamFortress2.com. It redirects to KritzKast, right?
I don't know. It used to redirect to Gamer Subs.
Oh.
But Gamer Subs had a problem with that. So yeah, I don't know where it redirects to now. I think it redirects to teamfortress.com.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah.
Shoot, what was it? But
so yeah, no.
But yeah. So coming to
you
the
made
SDK.
the glorious leader, yeah.
So I was made the glorious leader after pushing my way to it, so we've just been slowly trucking on. You know, people have left over the years over disagreements and whatnot. And I think it's for the better, honestly. Like, even though we've had our moments internally, I think people now. I did kill people for the role. I think now that
you killed someone for the role. Yeah,
people...
I've been watching. I mean, for those who are listening to this later, our chat is dropping some serious memes. So yeah, occasionally Danny will respond to chat directly, which is it makes a lot of sense. Makes more sense if you could see it.
Yeah, and so for me in working on PF2, I didn't care that there was there was a coal. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I didn't care that people were told in TF2C and OF to stop. I didn't care because I was working on Pre-Fortress. That was the one that wasn't.
Yeah,
we
weren't
listen.
told to stop. Yeah,
and so I was just working on it, and eventually TF2C and OF were like, okay, what? Like, come on, dude! Like they waited a year or something.
Yeah, and I think the estimate was like PF2. We for safety shut down for about 3-ish months, and the other mods shut down for almost a year.
Yeah, and I think they were just tired of waiting because Valve doesn't like to communicate. And they just kept trucking on, and every once in a while we'd say, "Hey, we'd really like to continue this like partnership," and it would be, crickets. And
I know that feeling. I know that feeling so well. It's extraordinary. Yeah.
Thulp in the comments or in the chat just said, "I dealt Open Fortress downloads to people." That is so real. I remember asking, like, "Hey, do you have a copy of Open Fortress? Hey, do you got
kid, you want an OF download?"
It was real because they took the downloads down. They respected what Valve asked, but Pre-Fortress didn't respect it. So I just kept trucking along, and it's really crazy. 4 years later, out of the blue, on a misty morning. Misty afternoon.
Sure. Like I gotta interject because I know that you have been to you personally, Danny. You've been to Valve. You were part of a group of people. I think Shork did like an interview session with the Valve, the TF2 devs.
So how it is we went and we were doing our videos with the TF2 voice actors.
Yeah. Okay.
And we reached out to Robin Walker, and Robin was like, "Sure, you want to get lunch? Let's get sushi." So we went to the. For those who don't know, Valve is underneath like a mall. It's above a mall, not underneath. They're not underground. You go up. They're above a mall, and so Robin was like, "Let's go get sushi." And so we just like chatted for 2 hours with the guy. It was really quite pleasant. And at the like towards the end of it, we were slowly, breaking the ice, getting comfortable talking about TF2 because we're like, surely this guy doesn't want to talk about TF2 again. He's been developing Half-Life games for way longer than he's been involved with TF2. Like, surely he doesn't want to talk about it, but he was like pretty open about chatting with it. He was happy to hear that people still played it. He was happy to hear people were interested. But hold on. So I says to his face, I say, "Yeah, my buddy Justin, he always manages to do crazy things with like assets, and we never know where he gets them from, and it's always remarkable what he can pull off." And he just looks at me and he says, or Robin looks at me and says, maybe from like something leaked. And I was like, and I said to him, I said, speaking of leaked code, I am a project lead for a TF2 source mod called Pre-Fortress 2. And he looks at me, he goes, well, I don't remember that one. There's so many.
Yeah.
He didn't have anything to say.
Suck?
No, I didn't care. I mean, I was like,
okay.
Oh, okay. That went pretty well. And I told him to his face, the one thing we are struggling with is not having a Steam presence. It's really a hindrance. People don't know how to open zip files these days.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
having to work with Git in such a manner isn't awesome. Updating is like oh my god, updating is kind of a pain. You know, we've tried two different updaters, and we're currently working on finding one. And it's like there's all these things that are a really big hindrance to us. And if it's like, oh, Robin, please give us Steam. And somebody was like, oh, is this because you, Danny? Like, I'm not trying to take any. I'm not trying to take any responsibility for this at all. Somebody's like, oh, is this because you? I was like, no. I was like, Robin probably forgot about the conversation and went to go hang out with his kids. Like, that had nothing to do with me. It was purely because we have two or so people working on TF2. You got one, and then you got the contractor, and the contractor is so amazing that they were just chipping away at TF2 stuff for the past 2 or 3 years, and then they
do we still know? I mean, do we still know if the contractor is actually a contractor, or if they? I mean, they've been working for Valve for forever now. So
nah, dude, I personally don't know. Like, I can look at images and say and think things, but I personally don't feel comfortable being like, yeah, they are outright an employee, because if they were an employee, I feel like they would be way less communicative.
Valve employees have a reputation.
So
sure.
This contractor is wonderful. They work well, that doesn't Thulp said they have a Valve email, but also like they're a contractor and they do so much work for TF2, so it doesn't really surprise me. But you know, they've been working on it, and I guess they just got to the point where like they felt comfortable with working on the TF2 SDK, because like rumors had it, you know, the rumors always, you know, heard from the grapevine. Little birdie told me like, oh, there's a SDK when the Half-Life 2 anniversary came out. Oh, there's gonna be an SDK. No one ever thought.
Everyone thought it was going to be a Half-Life SDK.
Yeah.
No one expected a Team Fortress SDK.
Yeah, no one believed it until it was there, and you know, we were all expecting, like, oh goody, we're getting a new SDK for Half-Life. Maybe we can use that for our TF2 mods, right? We weren't even considering a TF2 SDK, and boom, drops on your lap, and we're all like jaw dropped. I think, like I said, everybody crawled out of the woodworks, like saying, basically. Oh, what can I do? And it's really wonderful because we are now given an opportunity. We're given the opportunity with these TF2 source mods to be able to put them on Steam and have people play them, and we don't have to deal with updaters anymore, juggling updaters. We don't have to deal with juggling beta testing aspects. You know, we can just have. Go ahead.
We're getting into the weeds now of SDK glory. So the obvious question, as a non-developer, as a just random member of the gaming populace.
Yeah.
I mean, I know SDK stands for Software Development Kit.
Yeah. And so TF2 stands for Team Fortress 2.
Oh, TF2. That makes perfect sense all these years. So, yeah. I mean, that's what it stands for. But what is it, and what is it? How does one interact with it?
To the layman, it means a bundle of code to which...
Super duper KritzKast. Sorry, I just chat myself.
It's a bundle of code for which we can do whatever we please. It comes with build instructions. It comes with code from various video games. And the idea is that, specifically with what we've been using, the SDK 2013, good lord, it's 12 years old. And is you would take the code from the repo that's publicly available on Git and has the source 1 license. Make sure you pay attention. You would take that code, you would add the bouncy ball, whatever you want, right? And then you would compile it. And I hear you say, where the heck do you take that crap? What you're also supposed to do is you're supposed to have people download the TF2, it's called the Source SDK 2013 multiplayer app off of Steam, and you download that as well. And you basically take the assets from that mod and kind of do whatever you want, kind of customize it. The idea is that you make your own source game. So you have the layouts where you have the materials folder, the models folder, the maps folder, and you basically are telling SDK 2013 to mount whatever it is that you add to it. So for PF2, we're telling it to add our models, use our things. Because what you can do in any SDK 13 game is you can use like just random Half-Life models, because you are actually just taking what you've created and slapping it on top of the SDK 2013. So
yeah,
SDK 2013 is basically the source engine itself,
So-
and then some other. Go ahead.
So SDK 2013 was a development toolkit that allowed you to do stuff with the Source One structured frame. I use the word framework a lot, but
Engine.
essentially engine. There we go. Source One engine. But with a lot of games that weren't Team Fortress 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's like there's Swelter is one that comes to mind. That's an incredible mod. I think it's SDK 13. You know, Fortress Forever is Source
that's a
SDK
good one.
2006, and now they're recently coming on. I don't know if Azzy's still here. Azzy was is coming on to Fortress Forever is coming on to 2013. It's just different stages of which Valve has bothered to update. You know, their like community software, and it's really quite amazing because you don't have to Everick, where have you been? Have you been under a rock?
Everick's
Sorry.
been
Everyone
here.
in chat asked the
No,
question:
but-
Is Fortress Forever getting updated? Question mark.
Yes, it's getting
Yeah.
updated, but oh shoot, I lost my. But anyway, you know, over the years, Valve has been like, we really like modders. You know, that's what everybody knows Valve for. Like in the most recent years, they aren't as like friendly about mods, just because they've pivoted towards working on their own things. You know, they have more fun toys to play with, but you know, over the years they've said, okay, well, you can mod Half-Life 2. Oh, and here's the source code for a lot of that. Oh, and here's the source code for Half-Life 2 Deathmatch. And oh, here's the source code for this, that, and the other. And it just lets you, you know, take that code, build it, and basically let it target that engine, that app that's built into the SDK 2013 multiplayer. So what it means is that instead of every source game being having like you go on ModDB and you download it, instead of every source thing having the source engine executable in it and then all the source engine required files, it's just you just have a folder where you build all your other crap on top of it. You tell somebody to go download the SDK base, and then your code, you put your mod in a folder called source mods, and you restart Steam and it'll appear there. It'll say Pre-Fortress 2. And so when you run Pre-Fortress 2, what it actually does is it tells the SDK app, hey, go mount this folder and run it. So it's a really wonderful tool that anybody can use to be able to make their own games in the source engine. And like I hear a lot of people say, well, why would you want to use the source engine in 2025? And the answer is because. And you know, it's wonderful to us that we have this opportunity to.
So the answer was just because. I was
Yes.
waiting for like.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. It's
Yeah,
just because.
It's just because. It's more
Okay.
like we're stuck with it, I think is the correct answer. And you know, with the TF2 SDK, you know, it kind of changes up everything. Because as I mentioned earlier, we had Swelter, which is a mod that uses their own stuff, and they used Half-Life stuff. But those are things they're allowed to use as Half-Life things, whatever is provided in the SDK, right? So those are Half-Life models, right? They can oh my god, they they are allowed to push that out on Steam because they're using code provided in the SDK 2013. The problem with Pre-Fortress 2, Team Fortress 2 Classic, Lambda Fortress, Open Fortress, you know, whatever, is that we're using code that was not given to us. We're telling that SDK to, you know, take our assets and mount it, but it's using code that we weren't and assets we weren't allowed to have. And so that's the difference here is Valve saying, okay, here's our assets, here's our code, now you can do it. Now you can put it on Steam.
So does that mean that it's just? I mean, this is a new thing. This is a thing that's been developed very recently. So from that, I'm implying that you can't just do a straight pick up and move. You can't take the things that you developed for 2013 SDK and slap them onto 2025 SDK.
I wish it was that easy. I think Dead Thing, I'm going to call him out. He's restarted the port like 3 times. It takes a lot of effort. You know, I put in our FAQ, it'll take months for an internal build, and Dead Thing was like, I get knocked out in a week. Yeah, dude.
Can you though? Yeah.
And so it's a lot of work. And it, you know, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot because earlier in development, somebody put what are called if defs, and what those basically are, they're bookmarks that say this piece of code is for PF2 only. This piece of code is for PF2 only. So we have to, so Dead Thing, Avast, Lose, Neo has to sit there now and scrape through every file, find, oh, that's a big piece of PF2 code, pick it up, place it in the TF2 SDK. You have to go through. You say, oh, this is where we use our modern grenade mechanic. We have to take that and put it in the right file. We have to take that and put it in the right file. Take that, but it's a lot of tedious work. We can't just flick a switch and put it on the new thing, because not only do we have to use their code, because we're using 2015 TF2 code. Now, not only do we have to switch to that new code SDK, but there's also just like changes in the code generally, because we're using an old version of the leak. Some things have changed over the past 10 years. Right. How you reference something is going to change. Even normal stuff within the SDK itself is going to change. And so you have to sit there and, okay, we've moved it over. Okay, now we have to re-implement it, make sure it works right. Okay, now that we've done that, we have to test, oh, this thing crashes. And then we have to do new bug fixes and so on and so on and so on and so forth. Yeah. It's a lot of tedious work. And, thankfully, because we're done with 074's code development and we're focusing on assets, our programmers can focus on, during this time in which we're like wrapping up this update, they can focus on porting over to the new thing. It's a lot of work, dude. It's so.
Presumably with that, you talk about the bad side of it, which is the effort involved in transporting code from one base onto another, one engine onto another. Presumably there are benefits as well that come out of having this this process. Not so much this process, but also like the moving forward after this transition has happened, after you're actually on like the new SDK, you're playing with you're trying to implement things that haven't previously existed or sufficed within what do you call it, 7.4? Like when you're looking at doing new stuff, what does the new SDK allow you to do that you couldn't have done?
A huge, ginormous, humongous, gargantuan one is bots. Yeah. We get a lot of people who complain that there's no bots in PF2. There's no bots in PF2. It's like, okay, buddy, you try it. The problem is that I'm a stickler when it comes to leak stuff. I even said to the team, like, are you glad that I told you guys not to introduce leak stuff now that we have the SDK here? Of course, that's me being very presumptuous, because who would have known? Who would have foreseen? But the idea is now that the TF2 SDK comes with all the goodies that weren't included in 2013. So, for instance, bots. Bots are here. They're set up.
You say that like it's a good thing.
Okay.
Bots meaning like when you play offline and you play single player and there's a big server full of non-player enemies you can fight. Those kind of bots.
Content warning. We're not talking about no script kiddies on the internet. We're talking about offline play. Like like when you go into a server and you say, enable like 10 NPCs to play with. That stuff is really, really useful. And with that, we have to come in. Yeah, Ivan the Space Biker, for instance, we have to come in and we have to say, okay, now I want you to throw grenades as well. So there's still much we have to do. We've gotten the bots right, but now we have to add PF2 specific features onto the bots. The thing is that we don't have to make the bots themselves anymore. That was a huge issue. Is TF2C has their own really like crazy reverse engineered, expertly done bots, but they weren't exactly going to let anyone else use them, or we didn't have access to them. And then on the internet, there's all kinds of
alternatives,
leaked alternatives. We were looking at some that were like half done. We were looking at others, and so on and so forth. And now we don't have to deal with that. I don't have to bring somebody in to specially make them. I don't have to do that. And another thing is VScript. That's another big thing that I wanted. I think VScripting is so fun. I think being able to sit down and make a little map and add some wackadoo crazy stuff in the form of a script instead of doing 100 entities on a map is amazing, and I've wanted that for so long. Now we don't have to struggle to do that. It's just kind of there. We have to implement PF2. The common occurrence is we have to implement PF2 specific stuff. Like it's not instantly going to work. Another thing is the loadout and econ, meaning Valve. It's really funny. Valve pushed for it. They were like, you should consider letting people use their hats, because TF2 users really like their hats. It really worked for their hats. I don't remember the phrasing, but it's really funny because absolutely none of the big three mods are going to be doing that. You will not have your
Yeah.
TF2 inventory in PF2. I can't speak for the other mods. I know that hats are out of the scope of TF2C. OF has their own hats, so maybe they got something going on there. But it is completely out of the scope for PF2. It's not happening. We do plan on adding more.
You say
Go
that,
ahead.
but lo-fi long wave, obviously, with the exception of.
yeah. But
Yeah.
we'll be using the loadout system in place of our own. We have like a loadout system based off of an old one. We can use valves and add more weapons much easier. For TF2C, this probably means like custom weapon servers are going to be eating good tonight because they can implement their own really well, and TF2C can have a nice system that isn't like homemade or whatnot. And of course the benefits are, you can access people's existing inventory. And I think mods like Lambda Fortress or Fortress Connected can use that better, but it just doesn't have a place in PF2. Hold on, let me check my talking points. Is there anything?
If I'm gonna
Go ahead.
Yeah, so like the way that I'd phrase the talking points for this in particular is, you kind of answered the first one without me reading it out, which was, is there anything in particular you're excited about for the SDK? Clearly you are. The other note I've gotten here is pineapple.png. I think that was just me trolling me. Is there anything in the SDK that you weren't expecting them to include? I mean, obviously this whole thing came out of the blue anyway, so they weren't expecting them to do anything, but
probably the bots for me, because it's just been such a touchy subject for a long time, and it's been a tricky thing to navigate. I know that they left in a lot of content. One that's exciting for us is Raid, which is basically beta MDM. They left that in.
Wow.
They left in a bunch of swear words. They left in just a bunch of different things here and there
in the code or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Let me. Do you care if I comment on that real quick? Because that's a really fun story.
Yeah.
The previous time that code was leaked, before this SDK drop, we combed through code, obviously, because we didn't have SDK access at the time. So we just kind of scoured it to see what we could find and see if we could pick anything useful out. And half of the difficult code had very, very crass comments on it of the original Team Fortress developers making it, being like, what moron did this? Or why is this so incredibly stupid? Like, who did it this way? And then we're looking at this as it's like a time capsule. It's incredible. Because you get comments that are from the early 2000s of this color system is convoluted. I hate working on this. And it's like, wow, this is like Egyptian cave writing to us.
My own knowledge of this is talking to various members of the Valve workforce, regardless of what they originally came to Valve to do, or what they originally whatever their skill base was originally, they've almost always ended up doing some code. And I wonder whether some of these people have they've joined to do, I don't know, colouring blocks or something, or to change the hinges on the doors or whatever it was, and ended up doing 10 hours of coding because they needed somebody to press enter 16 times.
There's some comments that are just like, this is really dumb. I don't know why it works, but it works. It doesn't work well, but it's here, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to have that insight into their process and realize that we're not insane for thinking it's stupid, because they thought it was dumb too.
I mean, I imagine it's a little bit like you mentioned archaeology before, about digging up carcasses of dinosaurs. I guess this is like the digital version of archaeology, where you're sifting through old code.
I liken PF2's development to archaeology a lot, because to me it feels like archaeology, where we're looking through old discarded content from 2013 or earlier, digging for little nuggets of knowledge and insight to implement into our current day software and make it more playable.
Is there anything that isn't there? I mean,
Isn't
it's a
there?
weird question to ask because how are you going
There
to
is
know?
plenty that's not there.
Yeah, there's a lot of cut content that isn't there. I don't remember. I wish if somebody remind me from the chat, but there is a lot of content that isn't there. Like,
I
don't think
know
they just
there's
left everything in.
I know there's a bunch of cut voice lines that are missing. There's a few
Mm.
models. Some things that we are a little bummed about are things that require engine access, like
Yeah.
the edict limit is a big
Oh
one.
my god, dude. So
Which
aggro.
for a layman, the edict
Yeah,
limit,
edict.
and
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, but it's basically just like how many entities you can have in a space at once without the game, for lack of a better word, exploding into 1,000 pieces.
You forgot the forcibly
Exploding into 1,000
forcibly
pieces.
exploding,
Excuse me.
not gracefully, not getting so like for instance in a game like Pre-Fortress 2 where everybody's chucking grenades. That number counts up fast. I know some of you've been watching that Show Nick video, but that number counts up fast.
You get a 12v12 on a PF2 server on Hydro, and golly.
Yeah. We used to have Hydra was a regular crashing map for us just because of how much crap would be on screen at once. And unfortunately, I think Valve still hasn't updated this to allow you to change it, because in a game like Pre-Fortress 2, here's something you got to realize. These games were designed for Pentium 3s, maybe Pentium 4s, like 4 gigs of 4 gigs of RAM at the most if you could afford it. And so these are meaningful settings that they've done. They're on purpose. But now in 2025, I mean, I have like 40 gigs in my laptop, right? It's like it's ridiculous the difference between the two systems. And something that we've been asking for is please let us choose what our limits are. And I put an issue out for the SDK 13 like months ago before the TF2 SDK saying please update it, please let us choose this. And just recently it got notifications again because it kept getting referenced in other people's new issues asking for the same thing, because it's an issue in and of itself, the fact that we can't change this. We can't change how much crap is on screen. And in a modern computer, it really, you can do so much. And this engine is so old. This engine's so old that modern computers can handle it. And people were suggesting don't outright change it, because I do see what people mean. Don't outright change it because it's going to break a lot of mods. But we should at least be allowed to change it. So not necessarily changing it
see what it breaks. Yeah.
Well, not just that, but like. Just
change it as we need it.
As we need it, right? So not just change it outright. Right. The default is set to whatever it is now, but then a game like PF2 can come in and change it to be like twice as many, right? And then we will have wouldn't have as many headaches, because there's just random crashes that occur simply and like I said, they're not graceful. They're not graceful crashes. It just is like boom, server dead.
This is one of the things that we touched on it a number of times throughout the course of the last, I'm looking at the clock, hour plus. Like the notion that that you can utilize discoveries from other teams in your own project because now there's a shared code base. Is that so? For example, we mentioned Shunik here as having somebody who runs a development cycle for maps on 100-player servers. And presumably there's some measure amount of code that goes into the back of that. If they've developed a solution to get over this edict limit, can you then utilize their solution, presumably with very little code change? Because it's So, am I mixing metaphors?
No. Shonik. The thing about Shonik is that they're using source mod. They're using like source mod plugins. It's so funny. It's really funny when you're typing about source mods and then you're talking about source mod plugins. Hey, that thing isn't working for source mods, but are you talking about source mod the plugins like MetaMod, or are you talking about the games? But is using source mod plugins to achieve that. We can take the principles of it. We can look at the code itself and re-implement it into
a more solid form, like how we would use for the actual game.
Yeah, we can implement it into the game itself instead of it being a third-party plugin running. We can do that, but unfortunately, engine code is a really big issue here. Is that we don't have access to the engine itself. We're mounting
because edicts are outside of the standard code. They're hard coded into the engine itself. So unless we had the ability to modify the source engine at its core, we couldn't adjust the edict limit.
Or
Do you
even
think
just
there's a
like
reason why Valve have decided not to give you that.
I mean, I think it has to do with breaking other mods. You know, they just haven't done it before, and I think they just don't want to break mods. They just outright just don't want to break mods. And I think the solution,
because if you look at it from a distant perspective, if you gave all of the mods the ability to change the source engine itself, that would be extremely big. Like it would break so much stuff all at once.
and
If you all at once say, okay, all of you are allowed to change the edict limit, you're allowed to change how shaders work, you're allowed to change the things you see in the engine as concrete that will never change, right? The things you look at in Team Fortress now that will never change. If we were allowed to change those things, all of our mods would not be compatible anymore with each other.
Yeah.
They would all be basically unique games. Right. And so everything would break.
Yeah. And I think with the edict limit, you know, that's just one thing that's almost inexcusable. Like there really should be a way to change that, just because, like I said, these systems were built for very old machines.
Mm-hmm. It's less of a feature that will break mods as a whole, and more of it really should just be a slider kind of an issue.
Yeah, and
right.
As Dead Thing just pointed out, luckily we're on 64-bit now. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, now that's a huge difference.
Because it means that oh my god, I can't believe I can say it. Our games can access more than 4 gigabytes of RAM. Wow. And so you know, stuff like that is just, it's just marvelous that we can have access to that, because what's funny is I know the one person on PF2 is still playing on Mac OS. Like PF2 was one of the only mods to still support Mac OS. And part of the reason why you don't see source games on Mac OS is because they deprecated 32-bit support like years ago. And so now suddenly all the source engine mods are back to being 64-bit. So they could technically work on Mac OS again, but Valve ain't going to do that. It's just funny how things come around.
Bizarrely, I was going to ask a mate of mine asked me just today whether or not Team Fortress 2 is coming back to, or somebody was going to write a mod for Team Fortress 2 to allow it to run in Mac OS. But
no, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
They as a company have decided to not support the Mac platform for their games. You know, I think it's like Mac has like way less people playing than Linux now or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a sizable amount. It's what I first started on, but it's just not in their interest, just because they're so focused on Steam Deck, which is Linux, and then Windows is their user base since the very beginning. It's just, there's not much room for them to do it. It's not like they can't. It's just they don't want to. It's just they really don't want to. They're fully capable of it. They just don't want to. And it sets a lot of
from Mac. But I mean, does this SDK, for example, allow us to create Team Fortress 2 on our fridges?
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
Technically, yes.
So the thing I will add is like, no, we cannot reinvent PF2 for Mac OS. So that's an engine thing. The engine itself has to be compiled for Mac OS, and it is just not. Can you put it on your refrigerator? Absolutely. You can make it run on that. Like if your fridge is running some like discrete Linux distro, which most of them probably are. If you make sure to compile it for that distro, I'm sure you could just remote into that thing, compile the code, and you could probably do go ahead.
Is there any part of the Pre-Fortress dev team working specifically on Samsung fridges, or?
Yeah, I think we have Neo working on the Samsung fridge part.
Neo would be interested in that.
But no, that it is possible. Another thing is you would have to use you'd probably have to use like a Steam emulator, because I can't imagine Steam would run on a fridge. So you'd have to use like a Steam emulator to get it to run independent of Steam.
Right.
But it's possible. I was gonna say I wanted to pivot to SDK a little bit. I have some more points.
No, please do.
So
I'm beholden to you at this point. My knowledge of SDK ended with knowing what it stood for. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a piece of software that lets you mount the source engine and do new stuff with it. I will say, heed my warning. Heed my warning. There will be a ton of Ideas Guys mods. There'll be a ton of ideas. If it was a problem before...
Do you want to clarify real quick what an Ideas Guy is, and what kind of mod an idea? Oh, you want me to do that?
I want you to do it.
All right. Okay. So, Ideas guys. Basically, you get, say, a mod team, like on PF2, for instance. We're just going to use this as an example. So this is not reality. This is just an example. Say we have PF2, right? And someone shows up and they go, hey, you guys should add fucking... what's a good example, Danny? What's
bouncy ball.
Yeah, for example, a throwable bouncy ball weapon, right? And that's all this person does. They come in and they say, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And all of the ideas are really silly. They're not very practical. That is who we would describe as an ideas guy. Someone who just comes in and pours out a bunch of hapless ideas that don't really amount to an awful lot. And so something we're probably going to have to see on Steam with the SDK and everything happening is those types of mods that are made by ideas guys, since the capability to make Team Fortress mods is going to be so much more available now. The niche of people making source mods isn't going to be so tiny. Because right now it requires you to, you have to know about SDK 2013, you have to know how to do source code, have to know where all the leak stuff is. You've got to go through these like 5-10-year-old archives to learn how to do it. Now there's just an SDK right there that tells you how to do it. There's an EXE, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy.
Is this the birth of like Team Fortress 2 Roblox?
Yeah.
It very well could be.
Yeah.
It very well could be.
Any bunch of kids, literally kids, can get together and develop their own modded version of Team Fortress.
If they are determined enough, absolutely.
So,
on one hand, incredible. I'm all for it. I'm excited to see it. But at the same time, God, the pools are going to be so full.
Say somebody in the chat just made a really cool SFM art piece with PF2 art. Sammy, thank you very much.
Let me have a
very
look.
Cool. I will say another blessing about this SDK aggro that I want you to understand. I want this to be grinded into your skull. I want there to be a mark in your skull that represents what I'm about to say. One huge, tremendous, gigantic, enormous, so big downside of the old SDK is that. And I'm a VPC. I'm an anti-VPC coalition. Valve has their own little source code compiling system that I don't like. And what it means is that when you want to compile source engine code or source game code, you have to use VPC. I speak ill of it in this house. I've asked. Somebody's telling me to not speak ill of it. Is that if you want to compile a source engine game, you have to use their compile tools. And one thing that they do for some reason that I don't understand is they hard code it to a specific version of Visual Studio. They hard code it to a very specific version. So you can't pick this up in 10 years and say, oh, I want to do it in the new one and do all the porting. It's nope. We used to have, if you wanted to develop a source engine game, you would have to either use Visual Studio 2013 C++ Express Edition, or you would have to add to your Windows registry edit like a line of a string that basically lies to everything on your computer that says you have like Visual Studio 2013 involved. It is so weird. It is so strange that they would make it hard coded. It's one of the reasons why I don't like VPC. But the thing is that if you wanted to make another hoop that you would have to go through, like Parlander was saying, is you'd have to know how to add that string to your registry edit so you can use it, or you would just have to use this almost like over a decade old version of Visual Studio. Yeah, and you can't, like Dead Thing just pointed out, you have to go to the Internet Archive to get that. You can't even just go to Microsoft's website anymore.
Wow.
And so like it used to be a lot worse. Now you can use 2022 because it's hard coded to it. You can use it for the foreseeable future. But we're it's hopeful that maybe they'll change it. But anyway, what I'm saying is it's a lot easier now than it used to be. And eventually the same issue will happen in 10 years.
Okay. I've got to make up my mind. I'm mentally editing this while I'm recording it. I'm trying to make up my mind whether or not to leave that rant in because it's an important rant and it's going to be relevant to somebody at Valve, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, no shit, we need to change that," or take it out because 99% of the people are like, "What the hell? Why are you so?" But it's one of those things. Like if you have to utilize a particular piece of software regardless of what it is your role is in life, or even if you're just like doing something for, I don't know, for the joy of doing a thing, then there's always going to be this piece of just does not make any sense. Why is it there? I suddenly can quite easily relate to the SDK notes. The don't know why it's there. It's all broken, but it works. So let's
It's just
move on.
important to remember. It's just important to remember that if you wanted to develop an SDK game, you would have to use an ancient piece of software instead of just being able to go to Microsoft's website and download the most recent thing. It was beyond me. But I did want to say, so yeah, there'll be a ton of new ideas, guys, mods, simply because it's be so accessible, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing that it's accessible. You know, part of what I like to do in PF2 is making like tools accessible. Like I love, like, for instance, there's a tool called VPK Edit, which is like a modern VPK. That's the Valve package format editor, and you can add files and do what you want with it. And I put in a request to use it in like the automation I do, and I love that we have these tools here. What's really funny is that the OG mods won't really have much of an issue when it comes to this. So, any of the mods that were made pre TF2 SDK, they won't have an influx of ideas guys problems. It'll be mostly that this first year will be ideas guys mods, and all the mods porting to Steam, porting to the TF2 SDK. That's what you're gonna see is like maybe a few things here. Like I was excited for like a Team Comtrust to make a return and to do their little thing. It's gonna be a lot of that, because any of the mods that are worth a damn, they're not going to be released this year because they're going to be putting effort into them. So this first year is going to be a lot of ideas guys mods, and it's going to be a lot of people porting their existing mods to the new thing. Because you gotta.
One of the things that I think I want to touch on this as being like a last topic. So a sort of penultimate topic. So this is entirely conjecture, both on my part and from anything you guys say. What do you think Valve wants to get from this? Like the idea that, like, now that they've made Team Fortress 2 SDK widely available and easy to install, etc. Now that sort of that hurdle that would otherwise have been a thing that they technically didn't support, that was technically stolen code, all those things. Now that all of those have been swept to one side, and now anyone, ideas guys, or be them part of like larger groups, have access to these facilities. What do you imagine Valve would be interested in?
I'm gonna do this first, and I imagine Farlander has something to say. I will point out, Dead Thing said it's a great PR movement for potential devs. It is a great PR movement because they just haven't, they really kind of struggled to fix the bots issue. It was really I personally believe that it was the what do they call it, contractor that did a lot of that work. And they've been kind of on and off, like, oh, we'll support the TF2 source mods, we haven't, and then now it just comes. A lot of this is the contractor doing it, because you got to remember that Valve is a company of like innovation. They really kind of pivot towards innovation. Half-Life 2 is innovative. Half-Life 1 was innovative. Counter-Strike completely changed the esports landscape. Dota 2 changed the MOBA. Half-Life Alyx is still the best VR title. Let's be real. They really want to focus on new things, and like, because of this contractor, like, we're great. Like, it's amazing that we even have a contractor. They can work on closing those old doors that Valve doesn't want to do anymore. So Valve can continue working on new things, and this contractor can come in and close things, finish them, because it means that their one task is to focus on fixing these old source games, whereas the rest of the team can work on whatever they want. They can, or not necessarily. Yeah. They have restructured a lot, but they can work on more new and innovative things. You have this contractor coming in and working on making Dave defeat Source 64-bit. Like, who at Valve is
like, who cares? Like,
who at Valve is going to do that? it's the contractor whose only job it is to make those old source games like usable in the modern era. So for them it's good PR because it shows that they care about their old games, but it also means that people will stop nagging them about these old games because they have somebody to just go do this. Just go fix it, and then they will. And like I wanted to pivot here to talk about like how I feel like this will impact TF2 in the long term, because like here's the thing, people still play Half-Life 2, people still play Half-Life 1. They are very old games, but they are very good games. And even though TF2 is a 17-year-old game or whatnot, people still be playing it. Those servers are populated, those servers are popping. It's a free game. Being a free game means that you will always have people playing it. For the most part, Valve does push it on their storefront, but people will always be playing it. It has a huge economy, and it has a huge player base. It has a huge, like just everything, community content. It's not going away. It's not going away now, and it won't ever. And what it really means is it gets more people interested in it. Oh, maybe somebody stepped away from TF2. Oh, now they can come back and make their own mod, and then maybe they'll play regular TF2. It's only a bonus. It adds to that like story of like, oh, Valve, the mod lovers, but then they can also have a contractor work on that mod or work on the stuff that they don't necessarily want to because they're doing new and shiny things. And like the comic was about also what Vitov just said. This is in relation to modern games in general. Valve still like supplies server tools to the public, so somebody can download the mod or the dedicated server launcher and just play with the boys for a weekend. They can just do that. A lot of games are just going to delist. Like we have the epidemic of delisting modern games where the online-centric game just gets delisted for no reason. Valve titles still allow you to just pick up and go. I was going to say, speaking of like Valve, it involves elasticity in this game being around for so long. The comic, I mean, if we're going to look at the comic for like relation to TF2 and what it means for TF2, the comic had so many closing aspects of it. It was all these closing storylines talking about, oh, it's your move now. Thank you so much for the journey. And it talks about new beginnings, but it's in like a posthumous way rather than like we're going to have our new update next month. It's like, thanks so much. Thanks for the journey. Like we're glad that you're still with us, but it's definitely like a posthumous way instead of being like, and we're having a new update soon. It's like, thanks, and we look forward to whatever you do, kind of thing.
Like this thing's been trucking along for what 17-ish years. Like we gotta put this game to bed, you guys. We can't do this forever.
Yeah, and it's an invitation for people to do their own thing with it too. Because whether or not Valve's been making updates, people have been making community content for it. Like, say what you want about creators.tf, but that was crazy that people came together and they made just full on updates on these custom servers, and they just put in the effort to do it. And it's like incredible that with or without Valve, people will still be working on it. And I think this is Valve like kind of saying in multiple ways, like, hey, the game is kind of retired, by the way. You can keep playing it, but also here's something to have fun with. It's not, doesn't mean that Valve is killing TF2. It doesn't mean Valve is going to kill community updates. Like you're probably going to get your regular hats, guys. I mean, they've made a point of it in the TF2 SDK FAQ to be like, people really like their hats. Like they're going to keep making updates.
There will be more hats.
There will be more hats.
Farlander, you had an idea on this one.
Yeah, no. For me, like the whole thing of it is like they put out the comic. They're like, all right, you guys, we can't do TF2 anymore. So in my eyes, that ties directly into the SDK release. Because they said basically in two parts between the SDK and the comic, they said, we can't keep updating this game. We've been doing this for 17 years. We know you guys are rabid for content, but we can't do this anymore. Right. And then they release the SDK and they say, you know what? Here you go. If you guys want the content, we're going to give you the keys to the city basically and let you make your own content because we just can't anymore. So it's a bittersweet thing seeing TF2's development kind of go into not like Danny said, it's not like it's dead. It's more like a stasis thing with it. But then they give the active reign over to the community more on a broader scale and allow them to make more of Team Fortress, which I think is honestly really kind of poetically conclusive, because Team Fortress started as a mod made by a community. And then Valve said, that's incredible. You guys are awesome. Let's do more with that. And then they went and went and went, and 17 years went by, and now they're out of steam, and they're going to say, you know what? Here it is back again.
Was that a deliberate pun, or?
It really wasn't. I didn't even realize I made a pun.
There we go. So I'm kind of like I'm floating between both your perspectives on this one. In as much as like the hopeful version of me thinks that what they're trying to do with this is effectively look for the next version of Team Fortress 2, but rather than have them develop the next version of Team Fortress 2, they're kind of putting it out to see what modders create,
right,
to seek out both what the new cool game is, but also to allow development teams to create themselves, to a bunch of random people to come together and describe themselves as developers, describe themselves as having a own team, and then simply hiring those people. So from my perspective, I would, in the most hopeful of terms, I would imagine this as being a potential environment that they have created that would allow them to find both the team behind and the experience of the newest version of Team Fortress, be it Team Fortress 3 or Team Fortress whatever they want to call it.
The most flexible and most capable people with the most passion for Team Fortress, who are the most willing to work on it.
I don't think I'm huffing the same gas as you guys. I do see where
No. I fully understand that is a very unrealistic perspective. The part of me that keeps thinking Team Fortress 2 is worth playing, 17, close to 18 years after I started playing it, such a long time ago. The reason why I'm still here is because I still love this game, and I still think there's so much.
Of course,
so many things that are available to do with this game.
Yep.
And I genuinely want to delve into the minds of the people who take this code and run with it.
I mean, you got to look at the modern landscape of Doom games alone. Holy cannoli,
God,
dude.
That's insane. Yeah.
Celico,
talk about playing games on your fridge. Yeah.
Celico, for one, is like this incredible game that took Doom and went running. Like the GZ Doom community is insane. Like it's been so long since the original Doom came out, and people are still making Doom games. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine what TF2 mods are going to be like in 30 years? Like it's crazy just what people can do with the original Doom. And it's gonna be a wild ride. It's gonna be a wild ride these next few years, in terms of what people are able to come up with. Because a big deterrent for a lot of folks was, oh, I don't want to touch that leak code. No, thank you. Yeah. Now that's not a worry. That's not a worry. That was a worry for me too. I don't touch the PF2 source code. I don't touch it. I do everything to make sure it gets where it needs to, because I was like, I don't want to touch that thing. I have other people who can do that for me, and so now I don't have to worry about that. And I'm like, oh. Yeah, I can actually like touch the PF2 code without feeling weird about using old leaked code, and it's crazy. I have it here on my notes. I was gonna say, most people don't realize that the TF2 source mod community has like already lived a lifetime. Like PF2 had its 5th anniversary this year, and Team Fortress 2 Classic had its 10th. It had its 10th anniversary this year, and that's insane. It's still trucking. And it's going to keep on going for years to come, and people are going to make even crazier mods that are nothing like it. There's already mods that take a lot of creative differences from Team Fortress 2, and I'm going to name them. There's like Fortress Obscura, which has these like classes that are entirely robots, and one of them has like a Fortnite-like building thing. And there's Sign Fortress, which I'm not really sure what it does, but there's a bunch of different classes. Like Open Fortress is an example of taking TF2 and doing something completely different. Open Fortress is just deathmatch.
Yeah, they reinvented Quake World.
Yeah, it's quite crazy. Like it's it's impressive what we've been able to achieve now, and it's going to be incredible what's coming down the pipeline.
I think that's a really, really healthy note to leave it on. I'm The follow-on to that is obviously we've been chatting for a while about Pre-Fortress. I'm looking forward to what it looks like in version 8.
Yeah.
Looking forward to experiencing that firsthand. I think the flip side to this is that hopefully on the off, because we've been talking code for a little while, in a very sort of vague sense, I would imagine some of the people listening to this might want to be involved in Pre-Fortress. Is that something that are you open to other people being involved in it? And if so, how would they get hold of you?
Yes, real quick before you close things off, I do want to advertise PF2 a little bit more. It is in my talking points, and I know Farlander wants to speak on very PF2 specific things. I will say that we are going to be having developer applications open up for the 0.8 experience, just because we wanted to add a lot of new things, and our motivation died out for a little bit and then it came back, but people have also started to work on their own things. So we will be having applications open for playtesters, for developers. You can find all our links on prefortress.com. Again, that's https://prefortress.com. And you can
I
find
I like how you spelled out HTTPS, but you didn't spell out pre or
no PREFORTI.
It's linked in the chat.
Or
for
sorry,
those who are
ESS.
here.
I can't spell. And we're going to be looking forward to seeing your faces there on our server. And I did want to say 0.8 will have new player models. We're going to be rebalancing the grenades. We got our napalm, our gas, our concussion. Another big thing that I'm going to talk about in just a second is going to happen. We're adding new maps to our for 0.74 update. We've got Cloister and we've got Canal Zone, bringing back some classic maps. We have Push and Axelfly coming to 0.8. Farlander, I know I'm going into your talking points. We will, for 0.8 again, we'll have VScript, we'll have bots, offline bots, not the malicious bots. We'll have loadout, so many quality of life things, and a big quality of life thing, a big, humongous quality of life thing, like an enormous, is the fact that we will be on Steam.
Big.
There's no hiding it, folks. I have already put in the effort to get the Steam page for Pre-Fortress 2 up.
Indeed.
I have already paid the toll. I've already paid the toll.
What's the toll?
$100. I've
small price to pay for Pre-Fortress 2.
I know. I've started organizing the Steam page, and I've already organized the photos for it. I've been working on the logistics of people being able to upload our game to it. I've already got the Steam keys ready, so I haven't handed them out yet, but I've assembled the Steam keys for developers and for playtesters. And what this means is that we'll no longer have to deal with playtesters needing to use GitHub. We just slide them a Steam key, and now they can play our game. It'll be great. We're going to be on Steam hopefully soon. We hope maybe this week or something. We're just wrapping some stuff up, and of course it takes 2 days to verify. About 2 days to verify your profile. And we hope you guys can wishlist us on Steam. We have no idea when it's going to be ported, because we have to port it first, or we have no idea when it's going on Steam because we have to port it first, and then we have to implement 0.8. But we hope to see you guys on Steam.
Is there a downside to being on Steam?
No,
none at all. In fact, it's all upsides.
It's all upsides, man. One downside. No. Dude, also more exposure. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh my glob, dude, we don't even have to interact with people on YouTube, on Discord. People can just find us on Steam.
I was going to say, if there's one thing you would classify as a downside, it's that you've got to have TF2 downloaded in order to play.
Oh, yep, there you go. So, unfortunately, not our rules. We wish it wasn't this way. It's actually going to be a big issue for a number of our community. You do have to have TF2 installed. Part of the reason why people play Pre-Fortress 2 is because it's a very lightweight TF2 source mod. And unfortunately, you do have to have TF2 installed. That is the biggest downside.
Right.
That being said, though, it's a very minor downside, all things considered.
Yeah, you spend the $5 to get maybe a little bit bigger hard drive to play our game. And we're looking forward to it.
Can I just ask, is conch jumping still a thing with Pre-Fortress?
Oh, very much so. a lot of the way our grenades handle right now is been it's very, what's the word, reminiscent of TFC and such that we've had a lot of people come over from Quake World and TFC and be like, hey, we love PF2 because we feel like we're playing our original games we grew up on, because we can conk jump and we can use the grenades and we can do all the things that we could do in TFC and Quake World, and they still feel the same, which is, in my opinion, amazing, because we're essentially hybridizing the movement tech and feeling of Team Fortress 2 with mechanics that came from the things it originated from, and turning them into something
I've got a lot
new
of
and
friends
unique.
from TFC that will be very, very pleased to try out that experience.
Mhm.
So
There's a few features right now that are on the back burner that are going to get some more attention that I know Quake World people especially are going to enjoy, like being able to disable grenade holstering, and auto hop is going to get refined a little further, both of which are CVARs that can be enabled when a server is launched. But more specifically, like for Point 8, a lot of Point 8 stuff is going to be polish and making things pretty and presentable and streamlining development even further than it already is. And like Danny mentioned, player models, maps, that kind of stuff. The big thing, and do tolerate for me just a moment going off on a tangent about the models, because these bastards. We've taken to we've developed this terminology for our player models where we say they have a beta squint, which the way the player models are, obviously, in Team Fortress 2, a big part of the player models is their expressions and their expressiveness altogether. The faces they make and the body language and everything about them it's so exaggerated. They're such fun characters, right? But our current player models are old in our standard. Their faces are not expressive. So it's like, say you the way the characters work is their faces are modeled neutral, and then the faces like happy and sad and angry are then created individually. In the case of the pre-Fortress classes, their faces were modeled with an expression already built in.
Oh,
so when they try to make other faces, it doesn't work very well because they're still trying to make their neutral faces. Okay. So, for instance, our spy has a face. His default face is with his eyebrow raised and a little bit of a frown. So any face he makes, he's forced to have an eyebrow raised and to be frowning, despite trying to laugh, which doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
And so
the happiest day of my life!
Yeah, and so a big part of our new player models is going through them and fixing problems like that heavily limit their expressiveness and their overall quality. So, like, if this is going to go in a video later, we've got a bunch of work in progress screenshots of both their bodies and their faces here, where they're, like, here in chat, like, Soldier is a huge one. That's why he's the biggest picture. Because, God, Soldier is such a basket case. Danny, I don't know if you have it on you. You know the video of the compilation of all those different soldier heads?
Oh my god, dude, that video is awesome.
Yeah, it's like a minute or so long.
Yeah.
For context, and it's just a compilation of the community's various attempts at modeling a beta-style soldier head. And let me tell you, they all look like aliens, every single one.
I will say, Pre-Fortress 2 0.8 is another big stepping stone. I think our focus now is saying, okay, we've made it fun. We started working on quality. Now let's really hammer in that quality. And somebody earlier said, does that mean it's 80% done? I like to imagine that PF2 is 80% done. And I think that once we reach 1.0, we'd really like for it to be a complete experience.
I'll see. I wanna real quick clarify something that was asked in chat. At least in my case, I don't know about Danny. I don't plan for 1.0 to be the end of PF2. 1.0 is right now just sort of our landmark, like, this is where we want to be, in my opinion. Once we get to 1.0, then it's all just going to be, like, fresh trailblazing from there.
So 1.0 in coding type terms means live, means it's
yeah,
the real
we're done. We're here. But in PF2's case, that's just like PF2 has reached it, like, its quote-unquote complete state. That being said, there will probably still be a lot of content and ideas to go through even then.
Do you see yourselves working on this? mentioned Team Fortress 2 is now 17 going on 18 years. And there are people who have been working on that Team Fortress code since back in the day for the last 25 years. Do you see yourselves, whether it's yourself or whether it's the... I was going to say that there are definitely people in chat who call themselves old heads. Do you see like a Fortress team existing for the next, let's call it 10 years?
Real quick, I want to say, Aggro, it didn't hit me until the TF Connect event that I'm actually an old head. Because I've been playing.
Oh, dude, you were born an old head. You've been collecting like floppy disks.
An old head coming out of the womb.
Dude, I've been playing Team Fortress 2 longer than like most of the other PF2 devs. It's kind of insane. And I was trying to be humble during the TF Connect event, and I was like, yeah, I've only been playing since like 2011, and somebody's like, only been playing? What are you talking about? You know, part of that is like, you know, you get interested in something and you maybe move on from it. You know, you grow appreciation for it, and then you take what you've learned with you and you move on. And I think that's happened with me for several things. You know, with PF2, it became a part. There became a part of me that was like, oh, I feel stuck on this. You know, in my real life, I'm working towards a degree. I have a job outside of this, and you know, I had to, like I said, work on managing like real life on the computer, and hold on the computer. And so now I'm at a good spot where I think I can keep working on this game for a number of years now, especially since TF2 SDK is out. I will say this, I was literally like, hey guys, I think I'm gonna maybe leave at 0.8. You know, I have like a lot of personal life stuff. And then the very next mention was, psych, you're stuck with me, because that was when the TF2 SDK was launched. Just because like we were all really burnt out because it's a lot of work we put in, and then it just doesn't go on Steam, right? We have to have people download it through back alleys and whatnot. And so as soon as it was like, hey, your work that you've put so much effort into is legitimate now, by the way. It was so freeing. It was wonderful for Valve to say, yes, you are real modders. It was a wonderful, yeah. It was a wonderful experience, and I think now I could keep working on this for a number of years. You know, I think I set 1.0 as my kind of like as my kind of goal as in terms of like what I want to see through, because I think after that I don't really think that I could maybe bring a lot to the table, because my position in PF2 for a long time has been pushing towards quality and pushing towards a unified goal. And I think once that's met at 1.0, you know, I don't know if there's really much more for me, because I came into PF2 hoping to make things better and to make everything whole, and then once it's there, I don't know if there's much for me. But I hope to be around for a while.
Cool. Orlando.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I have really, really, really big ambitions for PF2, and I want to stick by it for basically as long as it exists, if I can help it. In my real life, I work a job. I'm looking to get into school soon, but generally PF2 is just my hobby that I come home to every day and work a little bit on, and then go about my business. I just love the project. And you know, as the art lead, I'm obsessed with the art. I've been obsessed with Team Fortress 2's art basically since I started playing the game. And so being in a position where I get to see the development artistically of a project flow and ebb like it does is incredible to me. And I don't think I'm ever going to want to step down.
Cool. On that note, then, we've talked about how people get hold of Pre-Fortress. How do people find out about either of you? Farlander, are you on the socials?
Not particularly, actually. But if you're in the Pre-Fortress 2 public server on Discord, you can find me there. Or if you just happen to bump into me on Steam, you can find me under my same handle basically everywhere. So if you see a Farlander somewhere, it's probably me.
It could be you. Danny?
And to that same effect, if you probably stumble across a Sour Danny, it's probably me. It's sour.danny if you want to go to my Blue Sky. The web link just redirects you there. I'm mostly active on my Blue Sky or in the PF2 Discord. It's where I kind of linger. I think you'll find that most of the people responsible for Pre-Fortress 2, if you want to find somebody to blame, are in the PF2 Discord. Happy to hang out and chat.
Cool. Certainly be taking you up on that. So thank you, both of you, coming in. Thank you, chat, for being just solid the whole way through. This has been a really interesting experience for me. A long time since I've podded, but thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for both being here and enjoying it with me. Hopefully, if you did.
Of course.
Yeah, it was fun. I always love hanging out with you, man.
Yeah, GG, man. Take care.
Control point is now hostile.
You know, I'm getting entranced by like Bubble Blast and Pickle Talk, so.
Oh no, like the perfect combination.
Control point is now hostile.